At a crime writers festival, someone is killing the people involved with a dead mystery novelist's final manuscript. Care to wager if Barnaby can find the killer? We're talking the power of revenge
The history of the crime novel.
and the art of faking your own death in this episode of
Welcome to Midsomer.
Hello, and welcome to Midsomer, the podcast where we dissect all the mysteries, the murders, and the many weird things about the long-running hit TV show, Midsomer Murders. I'm your host, Eric Buscher, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Eileen Becker. Hey, Eileen.
Hey, Eric. Today we are talking about The Dagger Club, the first episode of the 17th series. It originally aired January 28th, 2015. It was directed by Alex Pillai and written by Chris Murray. Let's spin that wheel.
No, don't spin the wheel. It clearly says don't touch the...
Reverse psychology, Eric. Reverse psychology.
Spoiler warning, we will be discussing the events of this episode, including the identity of the murderer. So if you haven't watched it yet and don't want to know who done it, pause this and go watch it. We will still be here when you get back.
The victim is Susie Colebrook, artist and book illustrator. She reported a break-in at 8:42 this morning. Said she'd been out all night and arrived back to find the cottage ransacked. Said the manuscript of a book had gone missing.
On both sides, burn marks. Looks like she died from a massive electrical shock. Probably stopped her heart instantly.
Electrocuted how?
There's a mechanism inside that roulette wheel.
Book illustrator Susie Colebrook returns home and finds her place ransacked and a mysterious manuscript missing. After she calls the police, she receives a package. Opening the package, she finds a miniature roulette wheel and a card that says, "To Susie from Maggie. Whatever you do, don't touch the spinner." So she immediately touches the spinner, spins the wheel, which triggers a huge electric shock that kills her instantly. Barnaby and Nelson arrive to investigate. Her husband Niall returns home from his boat to tell them that Susie was the illustrator to the Jed Dagger books, a series of mystery novels written by George Somersby featuring a gambling detective. The Dagger book sales had slowed down, but then George died in a boating accident 3 years ago. Then they were republished by Miles Radigan and became bestsellers. Susie was the executor to George's estate, and she recently found the author's last unpublished manuscript. Niall and Susie were planning on publishing the book themselves, and were going to announce it at the Luxton Deeping Crime Festival. Niall is more upset about the missing manuscript than the death of his wife. Barnaby heads off to speak to Maggie Markham, who runs the festival, and apparently is the Maggie in the note, although she claims to know nothing about the break-in or the wheel. Maggie is married to Nick Somersby, George's doctor brother and the author of a memoir about his relationship with George. The festival is headquartered at the local bookstore, which is owned by George's daughter Bella and her husband Rob. There's a lot of backstage drama at this festival as Rob is getting texts from someone wanting their money, and Bella and her mom Jeannie are estranged due to George cutting Jeannie out of his will. Their unhappiness is a source of joy for local someone Audrey Brailsford. Seriously, I don't know what her job was. Everybody wants this missing manuscript. At the scene of the crime, Nelson discovers the burglary was an inside job. He also finds the first Dagger novel, which is about two people getting murdered by booby-trapped roulette wheels. Realizing that someone else's life might be in danger, he tracks a second package to the home of Cecily Peterson, who opens the package and spins the wheel. Why does no one do what the note says? Barnaby and Nelson are, of course, too late. Coroner Kate Wilding informs him that everything is exactly the same as the first murder and that building the device could be figured out on the internet. They have no idea what would connect Susie to Cecily, a former owner of a London vintage clothing shop who moved to the area 4 years ago and kept to herself, until they find the original artwork for the first Jed Dagger novel hanging in Cecily's home. Rob heads over to the Brailsford home to talk to Audrey, who is the person he owes money to. She makes him an offer to see if he can get his money back with a secret rendezvous that night. He agrees. Nelson tracks down Vincent Treborn, the art dealer who is currently exhibiting the Dagger cover artwork by Susie. He tells them that Susie was there the night before just to help him hang the paintings. He's not really devastated by her death. In fact, he's using it as an opportunity to raise the prices on all her art. He doesn't know Cecily or how she got that painting, which is a very valuable collector's item. Barnaby talks to Jeannie at the Somersby house, where she lives with Nick and Maggie. She tells him that she wasn't surprised that Susie was the executor, but that she believes the manuscript to be a forgery. According to Dagger superfan and former Somersby family friend Curtis Brailsford, Audrey's son, Susie wouldn't let him read the manuscript, but said it was a masterpiece. Unethical publisher Radigan attempts to get Jeannie to push Bella to sell him the book. After all, with Susie dead, the book's now Bella's property. Turns out Bella knew both Susie and Cecily, and she says that she became friends with Cecily after she came into her shop. But Cecily never told her about the painting. And all the other clues are starting to point to Niall. Susie was thinking of working with Radigan instead of Niall, which would leave him high and dry. Plus, George's death was in the same marina where Niall's boat is. So they head over to the boat and find it ransacked. And then they head back to the house and they find Niall dead, crushed inside his own printing press. Tourist info. Welcome to Luxton Deeping, only a mere 30 miles from Midsomer Mere. You can also visit here in the episode Picture of Innocence. It's also close to the nearby Bannerdown Woods, where you can get lost and chased year-round. Luxton is known for its photo exhibitions. It's also the home of the Luxton Deeping Crime Festival, which is confusingly named. It's a festival of crime writers, not actual crime. Because let's be honest, all of Midsomer is just one big crime festival.
Standing in for Luxton Deeping is the village of Long Crendon, which is not far from Oxford. The bookshop was the Long Crendon courthouse built in the 15th century. The church you see in the background is St. Mary's. The manor in Long Crendon was used as the manor house in the Axeman Cama, so that would be familiar to you. And nearby, Notley Abbey was the home of Laurence Olivier and Vivian Leigh after the war. You can get married there. I'm going to do a book of how to get married in Midsomer, because there are a lot of places you can get married there.
I think we should start with the strange kill right off the top. We have an electrified roulette wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Why does everyone open their package right then and there?
I don't know. Nobody seems to just pull it in, set it on the floor for 3 days, and then look to see what's inside.
I mean, so Susie comes home, house is completely ransacked, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's had to call the police. This manuscript that she was dependent on her, her future, gone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got a package.
Maybe they were expecting something perishable.
Yeah, and then I like that Cecily doesn't even unpack.
I don't know. Maybe we just get a lot of packages more than, because of work. But, maybe not everybody's as jaded about getting a box on their front porch as we are.
It's not that I feel that it's jaded. It's, again, priorities. Like, the opening this package you think would be the last thing on Susie's. Like, why would she care?
Yeah.
Right? And Cecily, I kind of get, but, she's opened the box immediately. She's just returned home from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even going to unpack.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little funny. I would have at least waited till the police arrived.
In case it was a bomb.
Now, the cards both said, don't touch the wheel, which Barnaby attributes to reverse psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is it reverse psychology or people dumb?
I guess if you knew where it was coming from and it was sounded more like a tease than an actual threat, you would go ahead and touch it, I guess.
Whatever you do, don't spin that wheel.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get a big surprise.
A big shock.
I personally was disappointed that both times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we didn't see, when Susie, we don't ever see where Susie's ball lands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cecily's ball lands on red 14. And I'm like, come on. You couldn't have, it should have landed on black. Just to have a perfect in-joke if you're going to do that, right? And we also had the second strange kill. Niall was crushed by his own printing press. Which I am actually shocked because the visual of that is so cool with the words sort of pressed into his skin and his clothes. That you don't hear that one on as much, I feel like, on the lists of classic Midsomer kills.
Yeah, that is true. On the other hand, if you really look at it, you'd say there's no way all those words, which apparently were from the world's biggest manuscript, the way they wrap around his face and his nose and his clothes as if he were a flat object that just got reinflated somehow. I don't know. It was really weird.
Yeah. No, it scientifically doesn't work that way. But also, and yeah, what Eileen and I are saying is that the letters on that thing were so big that if this was a book, the book would be about 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
So we don't really know what the hell they were printing.
And why did they have a printing press in their house anyway?
Well, they were a publisher. That was the one thing.
Well, yeah, but usually there's a difference between a publisher and a printer. But
this is true. But, then again, you don't really have the big, I guess, London publisher like running around this dinky little book festival trying to secure the one manuscript of a mildly successwe author.
That is true.
Yeah, so let's jump into the book festival. Now, we should have a quick disclaimer here at the top. We've mentioned it before, but Eileen and I both have day jobs. Shockingly enough, this podcast isn't fully self-supporting. To
put it mildly.
We both work in publishing. And so something like this, we've been to many book festivals, we've seen many manuscripts, we've met many publishers and editors.
And authors.
And I would say maybe 10% of this was accurate.
Yeah.
Like, number one, let's just say Miles would not be a credible publisher. He would not be there. That would be like the Jet Dagger novels. I'm not sure what world they would have been huge. I mean, we've seen authors kind of pass away, and then the books have a surge of popularity when the author dies. It doesn't usually last 3 years.
No, it usually doesn't. Anyway, I love what Winter said about the jacket artwork, and that it was like supposed to be tongue-in-cheek and retro, and it was supposed to be very serious, because those were very 1950s, 60s at the latest jackets.
They're pulp.
Yeah, they are pulp. Yeah.
And the whole Jet Dagger thing sounds like it would be a pulp, Mickey Spillane, Hammer style. Even Mickey Spillane doesn't sound that well. Like, pulp is pulp, and pulp has a definite audience and everything like that. Honestly, who would be the most successful person at this festival?
Oh, yeah.
It'd be Silas Raven.
Yeah. Because he's got the whole crossover there, yeah.
Yep, Silas Raven is the only other real author we get to meet other than the Summersbees at this festival. He writes a series of horror. It sounds like fantasy horror. His character is a detective by day and werewolf by night. And I got to tell you, right now, those books would be massive bestsellers.
Yep, throwing a little romance.
Yep. That is, we are talking right now. When we're recording this is beginning of July 2024, and cross genre is a huge thing in publishing right now.
Yeah, yeah. And so Silas Raven would be accurate in his saying it should be shelved in all these places, and it should be on the front table if you're having him like sign books there, and he's got a huge long line.
It should be on the front table. I mean, honestly, that was like one of the most accurate things I saw in the entire episode, both that he would ask that his books be shelved in multiple sections, and also Bella, as a bookseller, being really annoyed at an author for suggesting it. Please tell me how to do my job.
Yes.
In my own store.
Yes.
He was clearly the pompous author. Everyone else there kind of rolled their eyes at him and laughed at him. I thought that was funny.
Yep.
Talk to me about the manuscript itself, when we actually see the physical Last Dagger manuscript.
Oh, yeah. That thing would have been maybe at a stretch a novella.
Yes.
Because that was about possibly 75 pages long.
Well, maybe it was like, not double spaced.
Yeah. The editor would have loved that.
Just so manuscripts, right, are when we see manuscripts in our job, they tend to be all double spaced. They are, even like if a book is like around 200 pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
The manuscript's going to look to be about 400 pages. It's going to look to be like a ream of paper.
Yeah.
So physically, when you see that manuscript and she's like lugging it around, it is very small. So the Jet Dagger manuscript is, maybe a short story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also but I will say this. There was a lot of people at this literary festival.
There were It was full, and that really pleased my book-loving heart.
Yeah, there were more people at this festival than there were for the folk music festival, and who knew crime writing was more popular than folk music?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always thought it was really funny when Maggie, who I guess worked in publishing at one point, she says that what she learned in publishing was that talent is all about handling pressure. Eileen, how often have you said that in your job?
Maybe never?
Yeah.
I'm going with never.
Like, I'm sure Midsomer writers didn't research this, and why would they? It's not necessary. It's not necessary to the plot or anything like that. These are funny little. I'm sure that if you were a heart surgeon and you saw that one where like it's all the people recovering from heart surgery,
Yeah.
they'd probably go, "That's not right." So, but for us who work in this industry, it was just a little. It was like, no, that's not how you do it.
Yeah. Except for that bit.
Except for again, Silas's attitude
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
not every. Hey, folks, not every author is like that, but every bookseller, every publisher on some level has dealt with a few of these guys who come in and want to tell you how to do your thing.
Yeah. Actually, most authors are very delightful.
Yes, especially if they've been on our show.
Yes.
Now, because this all centers around mystery novels, crime fiction, crime writing, Eileen, why don't you take us through the history of crime fiction in your history corner?
All right. Crime fiction encompasses a variety of story types that center on, of course, crime. Detective stories, murder mysteries, police procedurals, and spy novels are all part of the genre, with subgenres that include the classic whodunit, the cozy mystery, courtroom dramas and legal thrillers, hard-boiled detective novels, and the psychological thriller and paranormal mysteries. Crime has long been a feature of fiction, including in the Epic of Gilgamesh, many ancient texts from China and Japan, and several stories from the 1001 Nights. Some of the early tropes of the genre can be found in these early works, such as the amateur detective in The Three Apples from the 1001 Nights. The early 19th century, however, saw the early stirrings of modern crime fiction, such as in E.T.A. Hoffmann's Mademoiselle de Scudéry, published in 1819, a convoluted tale involving jewel thieves and murder in the time of Louis XIV, with the title character acting as a sort of 17th century Jessica Fletcher. The genre got a real boost from a certain Edgar Allan Poe and his detective C. Auguste Dupin, featured in the stories The Murders in the Rue Morgue and The Purloined Letter of the 1840s. The framework for the classic detective novel was set, complete with the detective's sidekick narrating the stories, the forerunner to Dr. Watson in the Sherlock Holmes and Archie Goodwin in the Nero Wolfe mysteries. The 1860s saw Wilkie Collins publish his classic mysteries, The Woman in White and The Moonstone, while Émile Gaboriau published Monsieur Lecoq, the first of the scientifically minded detectives. Arthur Conan Doyle published A Study in Scarlet in 1887, and the world of crime fiction has never been the same. Sherlock Holmes combined many elements of Dupin and Lecoq into a unique and timeless character. Through 4 novels and 56 short stories, the genre saw many innovations, including the popular locked room mystery. The publication of the Holmes stories coincided with the rise of mass media and literary magazines. Conan Doyle published his stories in the UK in the Strand magazine, and his stories were so popular that when he tried to kill off Holmes, the public outcry was passionate and international. So he brought him back. In 1926, Agatha Christie published her 6th novel, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. The third to feature her famous Belgian detective, Hercule Poirot. It rocketed her to fame with its clever plotting and surprise twist. It is often regarded as one of the greatest mysteries ever written. The 1920s to 1954 are considered the golden age of the mystery novel, with authors such as Dorothy L. Sayers, Marjorie Allingham, S.S. Van Dyne, and Ellery Queen joining Christie on the bestseller lists. These decades also saw the rise of the hard-boiled crime novel in the U.S., which included a cynical dash of realism among the dead bodies and stolen jewels. Dashiell Hammett introduced Sam Spade in The Maltese Falcon, and Nick and Nora Charles in The Thin Man, while James N. Cain wrote The Postman Always Rings Twice, Double Indemnity, and Mildred Pierce. The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler introduced Philip Marlowe in 1939, while Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer debuted in 1947's I, the Jury. Tough detectives and morally ambiguous dames are the hallmarks of the genre, and many popular and classic films have been made from these books. In the 1950s, Chester Himes began his Harlem detective series with For Love of Amabel, later made into a movie called A Rage in Harlem. His hard-boiled detective stories explored the world of blacks in America that other crime novelists often overlooked. Walter Mosley's first Easy Rawlins mystery, Devil in a Blue Dress, was published in 1990, and in 2020, he was the first black man to receive the National Book Foundation Medal for Distinguished Contribution to American Letters. Also in the post-World War II era, the spy novel came into its own with writers such as Eric Ambler and John le Carré becoming popular. The legal thriller exploded in 1987 with the massive bestseller Presumed Innocent by Scott Turow. Soon every lawyer with a pen was given a book contract, with few having the staying power of John Grisham, who rose to massive fame with his second book, The Firm. Female characters have moved from amateur sleuths like Agatha Christie's Miss Marple to police detectives and private investigators. Sue Grafton's Kinsey Milhone and Sarah Paretsky's V.I. Warshawski are only a couple of the sisters in crime who have spent time at the top of the bestseller list starting in the 1980s. Crime fiction, suspense novels, and mysteries remain incredibly popular. Tana French from Ireland and Louise Penny of Canada are two of today's hottest mystery writers, while James Patterson's Alex Cross series remains popular. A plethora of LGBTQ plus crime novels can also be found these days in your local bookstore, as gay characters have gone from background characters and disturbed killers to leading detectives. The urban crime novel is also exploding as a genre, taking up where Chester Himes and Walter Mosley left off. Mysteries that cross over into science fiction and the supernatural are also becoming popular. No matter your taste in mysteries, there's something that's bound to satisfy your itch for a little murderous mayhem.
I love a good mystery.
I do too.
Who's your current favorite mystery author?
We've had her on our show, and I am actually loving Alice Bell's Supernatural Mysteries because I also love a good ghost story. And she's really hitting that, and she knows her classics, and she's playing with them in a really unique and modern way that I find just absolutely satisfying.
Nice. I really like the Jane Harper books. I mean, I loved. Yeah, I've been enjoying the Jane Harper series. Her books start with The Dry.
Mm-hmm.
She's done a couple that are sort of all feature the one detective, and then she has standalones. She's just a really great writer, and I also love the Louise Penny series. I think she's created a fantastic world of characters that are just, every book is just like kind of coming back to this like a hot chocolate and a croissant.
Yeah. Her World of Three Pines is really lovely. I also love like Riley Sager, which is more in the suspense style, but also the Richard Osman mysteries as well. So there's so many great mystery writers out there, and there's like I said, there's something for everybody.
That is true. Shall we jump into the cast highlights?
Let's do that.
All right, starting with George Taylor, who was doting daughter Bella Summersby. Now, Taylor is best known for a role as Toya Battersby on the show Coronation Street. Now, she played this character originally from 1997 to 2003. She even won an acting award for her work in 2001. Now, after leaving the show in 2003, she eventually returned to the role in 2016 and has been playing Toya ever since. She's also appeared in Life on Mars, The History Boys, Law & Order UK, and Agatha Raisin. Charlotte Cornwell played warm and cuddly mom Jeannie Summersby. Cornwell has a long career as an actress and a singer and was a member of the Bristol Old Vic Company and the RSC. Now, her half-brother was David Cornwell, who we actually just mentioned because he's best known as the novelist Jean Le Carré, and he based the main character of The Little Drummer Girl on Charlotte. She's appeared in The Russia House, which is also based on a Le Carré novel, I believe. White Hunter, Black Heart, Lovejoy, The Mentalist, and The West Wing. Now, she's done a lot of U.S. acting work because she taught acting at the University of Southern California for about 10 years. She passed away from cancer in 2021. Leah Williams was loving wife Maggie Markham. Williams has an extensive career on stage, appearing in such works as Skylight, Oleana, and The Homecoming. On screen, probably her biggest role is playing Wallace Simpson on The Crown. She's also in The Missing, His Dark Materials, and Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. Howard Ward was easily impressed. Niall Colebrook. I'm proud of that one. He has appeared in MIT, Murder Investigation Team, The Broken, Coronation Street, Father Brown, and Bodies. Recently, his most recognizable role was as Sergeant Willis in Downton Abbey. Cobden Holbrook Smith was lousy card player Rob Mead. Smith was born in Ghana, but grew up in Surrey. He feared his family's reaction to his wanting to be an actor, so he was kind of slow to pick it up. But by 18, he was fully accepted into the Guildford School of Acting. He's worked twice with Benedict Cumberbatch, on stage as Laertes to Cumberbatch's Hamlet, and then he also is in the first Doctor Strange movie. He has also done a number of August Wilson plays when they moved to the West End from the US. And he also starred in the musical Tina on the West End, and that earned him an Olivier Award. He's appeared in Justice League, Father Brown, Paddington 2, and Mary Poppins Returns.
Paddington 2 is such an excellent movie.
I was worried you were going to say Justice League. Everyone knows that Eileen was really big on releasing the Snyder Cut. Ed Birch played Always Close By, Curtis Brailsford. He's appeared in The Hurricane Heist, Gunpowder Milkshake, The Last Kingdom, and The Witcher. Most recently, he was in Interview with a Vampire. Grant Russell was Reborn Like Jesus, George Summersby. He's appeared in Red Lights, Don Hemingway, Double Team, and most recently in The Bangkok Job. Timothy Watson was heartbroken art dealer Vincent Treborn. Now, Watson has done a lot of voiceover work and is probably best known as the character Rob Titchener in the long-running BBC radio drama The Archers. Now, his character is so hated that he actually had to turn off social media because people were just sending him so many cruel messages about his character. He's done a lot of video game work, and notably he played both James Bond and Goldfinger in the James Bond Legends video game. James Lance is Trent Crimm, the Independent. Werewolf mystery novelist Silas Raven. Yeah, most people are going to know Lance for his role as the journalist Trent Crimm on the hit show Ted Lasso. Now, it's a role that earned him an Emmy nomination, and it's the kind of a great capper to a long career as a character actor that started way back in 1989 on a show called Jackanory. Now, he's been in Ab Fab, I'm Alan Partridge, Teachers, Moving Wallpaper, Black Mirror, and most recently in The Famous Five.
Yeah, most people talk about how perfect his hair is. I'm going with those perfect eyebrows.
Una Kirsch played roulette lover Susie Colebrook. Now, she's appeared in The Professionals, Father Brown, Only Fools and Horses, Bergerac, and Jolly Good Christmas. Liberty Mills was secret lover Cecily Peterson. Before she was an actress, she was a successful model. Now, she's appeared in Sleeping Dogs, The Fear, and Welcome to Curiosity. Now, a few years ago, to raise money to do an acting and directing workshop for women from Western Sahara refugee camps, Liberty took a solo walk on the Shakespeare Path, which goes from Stratford-upon-Avon to the Globe Theatre, a total of 146 miles. She completed it in 3 days and ended up with trench foot. That's in her Wikipedia. Currently, you can find her online as a health and wellness coach. I guess I should say it's on her Wikipedia. Whether or not that's true, it is funny.
Now I went to do the Shakespeare Path without getting trench foot.
Wear proper footwear.
Yeah. Now on to some return visitors. Una Stubbs was protective mom Audrey Brailsford. We discussed her when we talked about Written in Blood. Stubbs is probably best known for playing the character Rita Rollins in Till Death Do Us Part and its sequel In Sickness and in Health. She's also in Wurzel Gummidge, Give Us a Clue, Keeping Up Appearances, and The Catherine Tate Show. Many American viewers will know her as Mrs. Hudson in the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock. She actually knew Cumberbatch when he was 4 because she worked with his mother, Wanda Bentham. She was married and divorced twice, and we discussed her second husband, Nicky Henson, when we talked about They Seek Him Here. She passed away, alas, in 2021. Simon Kunz was ethical publisher Miles Radigan. He also appears in Bantling Boy. Before he was an actor, he was the drummer for the band The Locomotives. Once he switched into acting, he worked at the Old Vic, the RSC, and the National Theatre. His on-screen debut was in 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and he appeared in the Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap as the dancing butler, The Last Kingdom, Gunpowder, Requiem, and Rose's War. Now, Kunz's IMDb page lists his best friend as Lisa Ann Walter, who many people will recognize as teacher Melissa Chimenti on Abbott Elementary. They met on the set of The Parent Trap. However, when you Google Lisa Ann Walter, best friend, it comes up that her best friend is Elaine Hendricks, who she also met doing The Parent Trap. Controversy! Oh no!
I had to look it up. Like, it's in his trivia on his IMDb page. I'm like, who put that there?
Well, she may be his best friend, but he's not hers.
Yeah.
So this crime writing festival brought in a huge amount of return visitors in uncredited roles. There are way too many to go into all their credits, but because they do the hard work of making this world look lived in, we want to call out Raj Awasthi, Anthony Farrelly, Alan Williams, David Golt, June Smith, Atul Sharma, Paul Blackwell, Jokino Jim Cufaro, Susan Fordham, Taj Gill, Pamela Betsy Cooper, John Neville, Andrew Parker, Vic Waghorn, Stephen McDade, Bharat Mistry, Sean Newham, and Ricky Rajpal. Throw in one-timers Terry Noble and Leah Perkins, and this was a huge cast list.
A huge uncredited cast list. There was so many of them to fill out that festival. I was like, we've got to give them a little bit of a pat on the back.
Yeah, because they really made it look like that was a really popular literary festival.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we can't forget our beloved mayor of Midsomer, Chris Wilson, who played an uncredited police officer as usual. Now, our village star this week is Adam Coates, who played, always in his brother's shadow, Nick Summersby. Coates is also a return visitor, and we will see him again when we watch A Worm in the Bud. Coates got his big break back in 1984's Driving Ambition, where not only did he act, but he also wrote the music for the show. He would go on to appear in The Practice, Touching Evil, New Tricks, The Last King of Scotland, Father Brown, and Doctors.
I thought he did a fantastic job in the final moments of this episode as a man willing to do anything to not lose his wife. Like, his heartbreak and his fear were palpable.
Yeah. He's, in a way, he plays him as this almost forgettable guy. You kind of forget him, until he's on screen, which is, I think, how he should have been played.
Yeah. He's believable. Like, you believe him, like, when he's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, and I think a lot of people would assume that because Una Stubbs is probably the biggest name, at least in England in this episode, that she would be the star of the week. I just didn't think she got much to do. She kind of, again, faded in and out.
As these characters do, but she could have, I think they could have given her just a little bit more to do to make her really work as a suspect.
Yes, 100%.
But I would have gone with Trent Crimm, the Independent.
He doesn't do anything.
Because he's got the hair and the eyebrows.
He doesn't do anything. Also, did you notice this cast has a cunts and a cots.
Yeah. I will say, in defense of James Lance, is that even when he's in the background, just sitting in the crowd, you do look at him because those eyebrows are acting like
look
crazy.
At him because he's Trent Crimm.
The Independent.
Yes. All right, we're going to take a break here, and we're going to be back with the second half of the Dagger Club.
Silas, your books are fascinating. How do you create such amazing characters?
Oh, I work out my characters along the principles of what I like to call rich. Realism, intention, character, and heroism.
Certainly rich coming from him.
And we're back. Let's talk about the second half of the Dagger Club.
There's somebody else here.
Niall has been dead only a couple of hours, which makes this 3 dead people in a day. So everyone figures the best way to honor all these dead is to go through with the big gallery opening of Susie's artwork.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. It's normal.
Yeah.
Barnaby and Nelson get dressed up to attend to hunt for clues. They talk to Maggie, who moved there to research George, but it was a week after he died, so she never got to meet him. Barnaby witnesses Bella and Radigan arguing and sees Cecily's car racing off being driven by a mysterious person. Vincent leaves his own opening early, so Nelson follows him to the bookshop where there's a high-stakes poker game going on. Inveterate gambler Rob thinks he has a big hand against Audrey and wagers the store, but he loses just as Bella returns home. Audrey celebrates their misery, because apparently Bella and Curtis were childhood sweethearts, but when they broke up, Curtis wasn't allowed to hang around his beloved Summersby family. Audrey's actions are all about revenge for her son, who still just kind of creeps around anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Barnaby and Nelson return to Cecily's place and realize that someone else has been living there with her. George, who apparently faked his death. The two must have met when he was researching clothes and went to her shop. Barnaby returns home and ignores Sykes' pleas to be walked to get a report from Sarah, who has been reading Nick's memoir, that Nick was present when George died. So they drag his butt back to the marina where he describes finding George's mangled body and face, identified only by his clothes and wedding ring. He must have been tangled up under the boat and chopped up by a propeller, Nick says, and he is shocked that his brother is actually still alive. Curtis is also shocked to see George alive when both are stalking Bella. Hard to believe they didn't see how much they had in common.
Yeah.
He follows him and later goes to Bella to tell her that her father is alive and asks to meet her in the woods where she used to play. She heads there at the same time that Barnaby and Nelson realize he must be hiding there too. Bella finds her father, but he tells her that someone else is in the woods and they have to run. He tells her that Cecily was keeping an eye on her for him because he had to escape. But Bella says she was just abandoned for his mistress and is a little pissed about it. He stashes her to lure away whoever's following them and then goes onto a foggy bridge. The detectives hear him scream and race to the bridge where they find him dead in Bella's arms, stabbed with a dagger. Kate says George was held from behind and stabbed by a left-handed person. Bella never saw who did it and pulled the dagger out when she found the body. Barnaby goes to Jeannie to tell her about her husband's second death and finds her laughing at Nick's memoir, which she says is mostly made up, probably from Maggie, the brains behind the throne. Barnaby also notices a set of Susie's house keys, and then he has this massive brainstorm, which is helped by hearing a message from Curtis on the answering machine for Maggie, where he says she's wrong about the amount of murders in the Dagger mysteries. Curtis says it's 20, but Maggie says it's 23. Nelson tries to get more info from Curtis, but he makes a run for it, heading to the bookshop, where he gets aggressive with Bella, and she has to pull a letter opener to protect herself. But he's not really a danger, he just wants to know why she ended it all those years ago. Bella tells him he just wasn't the one, as Barnaby asks for them to join him in the main room where Nick and Maggie are talking about his book. Hey, guess who interrupts the presentation? It's Barnaby with the first reveal. Maggie is the one who stole the manuscript, using her keys to Susie's place and making it look like it was a burglary. But Maggie just wanted to read and protect the book, as she is as George obsessive as Curtis is. But she is not the killer. That honor goes to Nick, which Barnaby proves by throwing a poker chip at him to show that he's left-handed. George was a very lucky and successful man, something he often lorded over his brother. So when George came to him for help to fake his own death, this was Nick's chance to get out from his shadow. Dr. Nick had a patient who died named Mark Sampson who fit George's general bill, so they used his body to fake the death. Nick thought his brother was gone for good, but when he found out that not only was he still in Midsomer, but still writing, this was the straw that broke the camel's back. He killed the two women in his brother's life so that he would suffer. But with the manuscript out there somewhere, he needed to stop the publication. So he killed Niall, thinking he had the manuscript, and then finally killed his own brother. In the end, Nick was terrified that George would take from him the one thing that mattered to Nick the most, Maggie. Maggie declares to Nick that that would never happen because Nick is the one for her, throwing the lost manuscript into the air as proof. In the end, Bella and Jeannie reconcile and Rob convinces Audrey to give Bella back her shop. The Barnabys settle in for a nice quiet evening with Betty, but not before they take Sykes for a walk and I assume clearing up all the puddles and the poops that since no one has walked this dog in 2 days.
I know. Poor Sykes.
All right, let's talk about the killer, Nick. And I just have to say, Dr. Nick had a patient die.
Ha ha.
That is a Simpsons joke. If you do not get it, I'm sorry. So jealousy, fear, and anger were the motives, not uncommon for the show.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tale of two brothers, also not uncommon of the show.
Yeah.
I kind of love the line that I was not the problem, George was.
Yeah. That's kind of typical, always blaming somebody else.
You know, this ending kind of broke my heart a little bit, because I actually liked Nick through most of this.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Maggie and Nick. I love their relationship. They seemed very solid.
Yeah.
And kind of sweet and loving. And they were in the end. But still, you know, it's like they have kind of a tragic ending.
Yeah. Because he killed 4 people.
Yeah. Because he was afraid he was going to lose her.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that is that thing of just like, he was afraid he was going to lose her, but there is definitely some sadistic elements to it. Electrocution is really painful.
And those were unnecessary deaths.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just to torture George. It had nothing to do with those 2 women.
And suffocation is a long and painful
Mhm.
death,
Mm-hmm.
and then, brutally stabbing your own brother.
Yeah.
So there is an element of sadism to it that I feel like also maybe he learned that from George, if George was really that kind of cruel to him.
Yeah. I think there was a bit of a dagger for the writer of the Dagger Mysteries little pun there too as well.
Oh yeah. There's a like weird warped hidden depths level of humor to some of this.
Yeah.
I want to know, how did he guess that his brother was in the woods?
I guess if he knew his brother's habits from before, that he would have guessed that would be one of the places he would be. But woods tend to be big, and it's hard to find people in woods.
But he knew where the shack was. Like
Mhm.
he was staying in this shack where they used to play.
Yeah.
Like he could have killed him at any time.
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh,
just
yeah.
pick that time.
Yeah. That is true.
It was weird timing.
I will say that was a very effective scene, though, the chase through the woods. I thought the cinematography was and everything was pretty creepy.
Oh, it was a well done chase scene. Tense. I liked that they did it without actually showing that someone was following them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which they did it just through shots of the woods and them running. It was a wonderful way to build tension.
Yeah, because you weren't sure if George was just being paranoid.
And then you balance that with Barnaby and Nelson also kind of going through the woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very well shot and well executed.
Yeah.
So George faked his own death.
Mm-hmm.
This was a terrible way to fake your own death. Like, he stayed in the same area.
Yeah, you gotta leave, dude. You gotta leave.
I remember at one point kind of listening to a podcast or something that talking about people who fake their own deaths and how they get caught. And basically the only way you do, like, people who fake their deaths are usually trying to outrun
Mm-hmm.
someone who's trying to hurt them or creditors or the government or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The thing is that you literally have to change everything about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you liked to run, you can't run anymore. If you like to do pottery, you can't do pottery anymore. You cannot be in the same area where you lived. You have to go very far away and completely change your life, or sooner or later you're going to get caught.
Mm-hmm.
He did none of that. He moved in a house that was 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
And kept writing. Like, he was going to come back from the dead. You just knew that. Like, Nick was right. This guy was coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you think he did it?
It seemed really weird to do it. Divorce probably would have been easier and less lethal in the end.
He said he was like, or maybe he was like worried about the cost, since like apparently he was deeply in debt at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Bella thinks it's for sex.
Mm-hmm.
George said it was an escape. We don't ever really get a clear answer of why.
Yeah.
Because again, he's still hanging around. It's like, I want to be dead. Like, he wants an escape, but he doesn't really want an escape.
Yeah.
He just wants a vacation.
Yeah.
And it does sort of shake Bella from this perception of her perfect father, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because she realizes he basically abandoned her for this other person, for this other woman. You know, abandoned her mother.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could have been a lot easier to do. I mean, reestablishing a new life is hard.
It's almost like it's out of a bad mystery novel.
Yeah.
Also, did he just never leave that house for 3 years?
I don't know. Maybe just to walk in the woods. I don't know. I would have liked to, maybe gone to a bookstore every once in a while.
True, but someone would have recognized him.
I know.
We've seen that, like, people.
That's the problem.
Yeah, these people run into each other all the time.
Yeah.
Again, bad plan.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so that scene where he's following Bella and Radigan in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Why was he following them so closely and so slowly in the car? Why the car at all?
Yeah.
He could have done that from the shadows.
Yeah.
He's not good at this.
A hat and some sunglasses, they never would have recognized him.
No. I gotta say, is like, in this one, because George is mean to his brother. He's really kind of cruel to his brother. He likes watching his brother suffer.
Yeah.
Nick wanted to watch his brother suffer. And now we're going to get to, now we look at Audrey and how she wants the Summersbys. Everybody wants people to suffer in this one.
Yeah. There are a lot of vindictive people in this one.
Yeah. And like gleeful about it.
Yeah.
And kind of, because Audrey she is obsessed with getting revenge for her son, for I guess because Bella broke up with, like, there's something unstable about this as well, because so Bella breaks up with Curtis. Curtis is constantly stalking Bella, and like, of course, yeah, the family doesn't want the ex-boyfriend around,
Yeah.
which is normal,
Yeah.
and yet somehow Audrey thinks her precious son should have been allowed some kind of pass.
It was weird. Because he's still stalking her after, I gotta say, 10 years or so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounded like they were, high school sweethearts or something, but he was creepy.
Nobody called it stalking.
Yeah. And it was stalking. Yeah.
Yeah. He's sneaking into the, like, I couldn't tell, like, how much, and because he's so obsessed with George Somersby, but, like, is he obsessed with George because Bella's obsessed with George? Is this he think he's going to get Bella back this way?
Mm-hmm. Who was his first obsession, George or Bella? Is this Nicolas Cage marrying Elvis Presley's daughter because he's obsessed with Elvis, or did he get into George because she was Bella's father?
Right. Also, how is she allowed to play a high stakes poker game with her own son dealing cards?
Yeah, that was suspicious. Never have, always a third person, and
there are other people that could have dealt those cards.
Yeah.
Audrey cheated. Like I don't think she has any moral compunctions to cheating to try to hurt the Somersbys.
Yeah.
But they had a great red herring with Audrey, and she's setting up the lights.
Yeah.
To show that she knows how to work electricity.
Yeah.
And she gives I think the best line in the entire episode, when she gives the bookstore back to Bella, and she just says thank you. She says, "Well, it's lovely view from the moral high ground."
Yes, that is a great line. Yeah, and a line that didn't, in an episode that didn't have a whole lot of memorable lines in it.
Yeah. Speaking of that, do you think Rob and Bella are going to make it?
I don't know. They seem, if he could give up gambling, which I know is hard, but he needs to get to like Gamblers Anonymous or whoever, because they're a cute couple together, and if they are just focused on their bookstore and stuff, that would be really lovely.
But it's like, are they the one? Because she tells Curtis he's not the one, and Maggie basically tells Nick that he's the one.
Yeah.
So there is this kind of romantic element undercurrent through this episode of people like, you see it, of course, with the Barnabys. They are clearly meant to be together as well.
Yeah. The look she gives him at the end looks like they may make it, but you never know.
They've got work to do.
Let's just say we haven't returned to Luxton Deeping to solve Rob's murder yet. In
the final presentation, when they're talking about the Nick and Maggie are talking about the book, and Barnard comes in, did you notice that Audrey's in there? Why? Her son was literally just chased by the cops, and she's like, well, I guess I gotta go to this thing.
What else am I gonna do? This is a dull town.
They'll get him, bring him back. Yeah. I've got more important. I've got to watch the Somersby's sweat.
Yeah.
I just thought it was just when they do a tight close up of her, I'm like, there's no reason for her to be here. This is like she loves her son so much, yet she forgets about him instantly. But this is one of the few times they have the cliche of everybody gathered in one room with, by the way, lots and lots of other people at this book festival, but all the suspects are together in one room for the reveal. The grand reveal. Yeah. Which is not a normal thing in Midsomer Murders. Yep. Talking about this grand reveal, let's just jump ahead to the detective work. So Barnaby catches Nick as a left-handed person by throwing a poker chip at him, which he learned from a Jed Dagger novel. Yeah. I thought that was a bit much. He could have just noticed he wrote with his left hand, or he favored his left hand. You can usually tell when somebody, Yeah. Hey, though I guess people don't write as much as they used to. But, hey, could you sign this book for me? Yeah. But it was more dramatic in front of all those people. I'm not sure it's legal. Also, did you notice that he read tiny little phone numbers upside down and across the desk? It's a talent. That is a good talent. Like, if I was Nelson or any Nelson Jones or winner at any time, I'd be like, never write "my boss sucks" on anything ever,
Yeah.
because he'll see it. And I loved it when Nelson just picks up that first Dagger novel
Yeah.
and starts reading the plot out loud, and then he just like his eyes like,
I
oh
know.
no.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I liked that Nelson had a good amount of detective work in this one. I mean, he really if he'd picked that book up a minute earlier, he probably could have prevented that murder.
I have to say is like watching these Nelson episodes, the last few ones, I've really grown to appreciate Nelson, and I'm kind of sad that he didn't last longer.
Yeah, but he had to go be a member of Queen.
Yep. Corner. We have a little bit with Kate Wilding, who is super efficient in this episode.
Oh yeah.
She has the cause of death, the scene dusted, and the wheel taken apart, all before Barnaby and Nelson ever get there.
She is A+ in her efficiency.
Oh my god, I was just waiting for, oh, and I solved it, so you two can go home.
Yeah, I know.
Also, I love, you only hear it for a second, but it's a great callback to Death in the Divas, where Nelson asks if she's ever read the Dagger novels or something like that, and she's like, I'm more into horror.
Yeah. Love that little continuity there.
I love it. It's a fun little character beat. Meant nothing to anything, but it was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Hopping into the home life. I believe this is one of our first times where we're seeing kind of the happy doting parents.
Yeah. Yeah, because wasn't the baby had just been born in the episode previous to this, the Copenhagen murders.
Yep. John is organized to the point of anal retentiveness. Sarah just seems to want to do anything that is just not baby.
Yeah. I mean, you love your baby, but it's like, at times I want to be not mommy and baby. I want a little just Sarah time.
Yeah. Make total sense. So she instead reads what sounds to be like an incredibly boring memoir.
Yeah.
Which call back to the Written in Blood when Joyce reads the book for Barnaby. So I guess being a detective's wife means you give book reports.
Yeah. And you have to be able to decipher all the secret meanings in those books.
And you have to read just the important passages so that they get called back later.
Yes.
At the end of the episode, they want a nice evening in, but because they are exhausted, and I love the line, it's exhausting having a baby and absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, and that is pretty much true from every parent I've heard talk about have babies.
Yep. You and I do not have any babies.
No.
Neither together or separately. So we're just gonna be like, I'm sure it's absolutely exhausting and probably wonderful.
But don't forget to walk the dog.
Oh my god.
Poor Sykes.
3 times. He's like, please walk me. And no, it's like, you are a dog owner. Walk your dog.
Yeah.
That dog's gonna thank God he has access to the backyard, but that backyard's gonna be just covered in poop now.
Yeah, because that was one desperate dog.
Oh. Also, why would they put the baby monitor next to him? That's just gonna hurt his ears.
Aw. Yeah.
Like, dogs hear things in much higher frequencies, people.
Yeah. And there are probably frequencies to a baby's cry that poor dog could hear.
Final thoughts.
My initial grade when I rated this was higher than I would give it the second and third times. I think it lags a bit in the middle. You start off really well because those are really 2 very striking murders with the roulette wheel. Very memorable, and unfortunately, those are like the most memorable things about the episode. It gets a little bogged down in the middle. In fact, last night when I was watching it for my pre-record final time, I started dozing off a little bit in that second half of the first half, second quarter.
There's a lot of big switches up in this one. Like, we don't even like the whole idea that George is even still alive doesn't even come in till the second half. 3 murders in a day. That's a no one comments on that at all.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot even for Midsomer. It's like, oh wow, we've got 3 dead people in a day. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, somebody from Costin CID should be calling Barnaby and like chewing his butt out.
Yeah.
But I think this episode's fine. I
Mhm.
think it's, it's like a pulpy mystery novel. Not even a pulpy mystery novel. It's like a average mystery novel.
Yeah. There's nothing I can say that's terrible about it. I don't think it's as memorable as some of the other ones.
I think the kills are kind of really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fine. Like, it kept me guessing.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I was absolutely I had forgotten how this one ended. When Nick is revealed, I was like, oh, I really didn't want it to be Nick or Maggie, because I really liked them. And I wanted them to have a happy ending, and it gives it sort of a tragic ending.
Mm-hmm.
This didn't feel like an episode that really needed a tragic ending.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It does the job. It goes down smooth. It's not a worst one. It's not a best one. It's got some weird stuff. It's got some good stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a solid B.
Yeah.
I had it as a B+ on my first one, but I think I'd take away the plus just because I think it does start to lag a little bit.
I would give it a B- just purely on the fact that there's some weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Incongruities.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it... and also, I don't think there was many credible... They didn't really have a lot of credible suspects.
Yeah, that's the thing, is there wasn't...
nobody was given motives.
Yeah, I think that's it, is that there wasn't a real sense of these are who the suspects are.
Yeah. There was no real sense of why were these women being murdered?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like they once they connect them to George, they're forgotten, and then George is the only one that matters.
I also think that it's a B- just in the sense of Una Stubbs is a really good actress.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't given... I wanted one great scene from her.
Yeah.
I wanted one great one. And she was good.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't... And she just... Either it was edited out or whatnot, that she was not given one great scene.
Yeah. But she did get the best line.
Yes, she did. Yeah. Well, that's everything we wanted to talk about. If you have anything you want to discuss about the Dagger Club or Midsomer Murders, please feel free to email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. If you want us to use the email in the show, please say so in your email. We're also Welcome to Midsomer on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. You can also find us as Welcome to Midsomer on YouTube, where we are uploading our old episodes. Please follow us in all these places. If you've liked what you heard today, please consider subscribing to us or rating and reviewing us on iTunes or Spotify. That really helps people find us. Also, tell all your friends about us. We're going to be back next month, so we hope you will join us again. As we take the road out of Midsomer, we want to thank you for listening and remind you that in Midsomer, faking your death can be murder.
And usually is, for many people.
Welcome to Midsomer is produced by Eric Buscher and Eileen Becker. All clips in this podcast are used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exception for criticism and commentary. Our logo and podcast art was designed by Smeedrai. Our theme music is by the infamous Space.
Crime fiction encompasses... encompasses? It's Latin. Simon Kuntz was ethical publisher.
Sorry, what was his name?
Simon Kuntz. Are you going to laugh every time I say that?
Probably.
Okay. Put that in the X out. Yeah. Okay. Simon Kuntz was... Now I can't do it.